friend. Welcome to Wild and Waking, a sacred space for the woman unraveling what no longer fits, remembering the truth that's always lived inside her, reclaiming her joy, her voice, her power, and rising fully, fiercely, and without apology. I'm your host, Emily Rushell, and together we'll explore what it means to live in alignment, lead with soul, and awaken a life of abundance, authenticity, and purpose. Let's begin. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Wild and Waking. Today, I'm joined by Holly Lamb, a connection from Threads and now the internet as a whole. I think we first started talking about her coming on the podcast last September when I was in the depths of despair and pregnancy. But recently, she was on Kelsey Anderson's podcast, who is a very familiar name with the Wild and Waking community. I just listened to their episode on a walk, and it was so good. But she is a womb witch and psychic. She does a lot of work with healing menstrual issues, with healing your womb, being able to go into energetics, like making lifestyle changes, like looking at healing beyond kind of these scripts that we've been handed, especially as women for many decades. Now her work is really even evolving into conception and what that looks like from the physical body, energetics. I was just hearing you talk on Kelsey's podcast about like preparing in the astral realm and all of these like babies you're interacting with. And that totally piqued my attention because I am here holding like little spirit baby. So I'm so excited to dig into this conversation. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for the lovely introduction. I'm really excited for this conversation. And yes, Kelsey's conversation was so beautiful. So just to talk about this work even more is just amazing.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about your journey of how you got into this. I mean, I always think it's so amazing to talk to women that are of our age who have like been through these meandering paths. And like now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm a soul expansion coach. Like if you even said that word out loud at 18 when I was, entering the world, I would have been like, what are you talking about? So how, Holly, did you get to the place where you define yourself in this season as a womb witch?
So this kind of started back in 2022 when I was diagnosed with early menopause. So had a lot of issues with my cycle. I was having horrendous skin issues to the point where like my face like blew up. It was horrendous. Went to the doctor, got given steroid cream and told it's because I'm a woman and I wear makeup. I was like, okay, thanks very much for that.
That's great. Love that.
Of course. It was a man, of course. And then I kind of like deep dove into perimenopause, menopause, and I was already kind of in that space because I was a personal trainer at the time and I was had a lot of perimenopausal clients. So I kind of understood what was happening, but I was like, well, I'm 35. I'm too young to be going through it. But I got a really good trainee GP. She did some tests. We did family history. And then through months and months and months, finally got to the place where she was like, I think you're in early menopause. And the first thing they do is kind of prescribe you HRT, which is hormonal replacement therapy. So I took that at the time because I wasn't kind of clued up on what it was going to do to my body. And for some women, yeah, it can help. It can be a stepping stone. But for me, it felt like it completely like switched everything off. It numbed everything. I felt like I was back on the pill. Even though they say it's bioidentical, it's still synthetic. It still feels like you're completely switched off because it's not balancing. It's just putting you on a baseline. Like with the pill, it turns off ovulation. You just puts you on a baseline. So it was like, this is horrible. I hate this feeling. I was really anxious and overwhelmed, didn't want to go out of the house, which is something I'd never experienced ever before, never dealt with anything like that in my life. And I was like, is this it? Is this it for the rest of my life? Is this what I've got to put up with? And I was like, fuck this. Absolutely no way. So through a synchronistic series of events, I got given a book called Wise Power by Alexandra and Shani, who run the Red School. They are amazing for all things menopause and periods. You should definitely check them out. And I was reading the book and it was like, this book is about me. Like genuinely, this feels like the whole book is written about what is happening in my body. So I did their menstruality leadership program and discovered how to work with the energies of the cycle, the different seasons of the cycle, what that all meant, rather than, ovulation and follicular and menstruation. Like they give the terminology as like spring, summer, autumn, winter. And that really resonated with me. And then continuing on this journey, I met a psychic development mentor called Natty, and I worked with her for over a year. And that was when everything kind of exploded and the womb work kind of came into fruition. So when I first started, it was kind of just guiding women on journeys through the womb, like allowing them to be guided by me. Whereas now it's fully, completely intuitively led by my higher self, my guides, connecting with their spirit team, and then going into the energetic liminal womb space. So every woman has a energetic womb space. Even if you no longer have a physical womb space, every single woman has an energetic one. So basically going in there to clear, to anchor, whatever it is that the session needs, the woman needs, it's intuitively led. And that's kind of led me to this place of where I am now, helping women with menstrual issues, helping women conceive, all the things. And that's, basically in a nutshell, how I've ended up here.
It sounds like you had a similar experience to me of being in your early 30s or so, and for the first time actually being given the information about your cycle. And it was after I had already had my second child that I learned that information. And it was like equal parts a deep sigh of relief of like, oh my goodness. And also like this fury of how did no one have this conversation with me? And I don't fault the women in my family because I don't think they had the information. But on a societal, a systemic level, like how deeply disconnected we are from ourselves, from our essence. And I don't think that's accidental, right? Because when we are really in tune with our cycle, with our power, like we are incredibly powerful, right? And I know, even talking about the medication, and yes, there's like a time and a place for everything. Thank goodness for Western medicine and all that it can provide. If you break your leg, I am so grateful that we have a hospital to help fix it, right? But many of us like grew up on the pill without question. And then like coming off of it, like this whole experience. And then here we are in this different season, which, historically speaking, has been like a very sacred initiation for women into the next season of their life, like talking about menopause and being like, oh, nope, here's this pill so you don't have to experience it. I would love to just open up the conversation of like what this experience has been like for you and really just like your take on what this means for women.
Yeah, so I love what you said about the pill and HRT. Like, I personally believe as well, these things are given to us on purpose to completely disconnect us from our true essence, from being able to connect to our intuition. Because when women are deeply rooted in their intuition, they are not able to be controlled. And if you're not able to be controlled, then the government has a really difficult time in trying to sway you with certain things. Now, that would be very difficult for them. They would have a lot more trouble. And I feel like the tide is turning, and this is basically what is going to happen down the line. Maybe not our generation, but maybe a few generations over. And women are starting to wake up to the fact that, okay, this isn't a fix, this is a plaster. And they actually want to get to the root cause. So yeah, for me, I was on the pill for like 20 years because I had no idea. I was put on it at 16. You don't want to get pregnant, go on the pill, like literally. And it wasn't until I came off, I was like, wow, I have been asleep
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of my life. And as soon as I got put on HRT, it was like I was going back into that. And I was like, I don't like this feeling, because once you come off it and you realize kind of how numb you've been to everything, you're like, wow, what has it been doing to me? And, they say there's no long-term side effects, but it's like, well, you don't really know that because you don't do any studies on women ever because of our hormones. So it's like, how can you say that? Like, it's just not possible to say that that's okay. And the pill hasn't changed in over like 50, 60 years. It's just ridiculous. So for me, coming off it and then going back on HRT, I was like, okay, this is not for me. And I was like, there has to be another way. And there is another way if you are willing to go there and do the work, because it's not easy, like dealing with all this shit of like menstrual problems, skin issues, overwhelm, anxiety, like, yeah, it's easy to just take a pill and just be like, okay, I'll just carry on with my life and that's that.
Mhm.
But for me, I was like, there has to be a different way. And coming off it and putting in the work and understanding my body again, like learning at 30, like you said, understanding your body and your cycle and understanding what that means for you completely changed my life. And this is why I love talking about this, because even if one woman's like, oh, maybe I could come off the pill, or maybe I don't need HRT, maybe I can step into that next phase of life as like this wise woman, which is what women were back in the day, wise women when they got to this age.
Right. I would love if you could share more about maybe what some of these common issues that you see presented, like what, because everything is like, we see the symptom, but it's this stuff beneath the surface. And I think my first initiation into healing was like understanding what's happening in the body that's actually dictating the symptoms. And then you go further down and realize like how much trauma or energetics or like things from past lifetimes are actually manifesting as these symptoms that we are, trying to manage. So I would love if you could talk through some of those things, or even what your take is on that experience.
Yeah. So for me personally, and then when I work with clients, a lot of the stuff that I see is trauma that's been stored in our womb that's coming out in physical symptoms. Because for me personally, when I did my journey of connecting back to the cycle, working with the energies, doing the womb work, all my symptoms disappeared. Like, I don't have any symptoms. I don't have anxiety, overwhelm. My skin has never been better. I just feel better. I just feel like I've got more energy, and I've never known myself more than I do now. And with clients that I work with, when we go into the womb space, it can be trauma from this lifetime. And what I've found is with the womb work, it's not therapy. It's not about going in and looking at it and readdressing it, because that doesn't help. Like, your womb's carrying it because maybe you have already processed it in your head, but it's still in your body. So all my job is to help clear it and remove like the energy from that space, so that the woman is able to deal and process and actually move on. And I've helped women reduce cysts. I've helped women with fibroids, PCOS. I had a woman who was on thyroid medication. She's now off thyroid medication, and her doctor has discharged her because all her levels have been normal for months. And we worked together for over a year. And she's postmenopausal. She had a partial hysterectomy, and she's never felt more in tune with her cycle. She works with the energies of the moon because she's obviously not bleeding, and she's just more tapped into her intuition. So it's never too late to get into this work, even if you're no longer bleeding, even if you've had, organs removed. It's how far you're kind of willing to go and how much work you're willing to do. But yeah, for me, a lot of the symptoms I see are energetic. Of course, if you're eating crap diet and you're not exercising and you don't move your body, then of course you need to do those things as well. Like, we are physical beings, we are humans, we do need to do physical things. But if you are like kind of ticking all those boxes, then usually the last thing is this energetic component. And that's what I see with the clients that I work with.
Can you walk us through, for someone who's like, okay, I'm interested, but like, what does that mean? Can you walk us through maybe what a session would look like if you are going in and energetically clearing?
Yeah. So the way I was trained was to be very safety conscious, but especially when we're going into the womb. So it's very energetically protected. So we connect to heaven and earth. I bring in my security team, let's say. So the space is protected. And then we descend into the physical womb space to start. And then we enter the energetic womb space. And then it's kind of just sitting and seeing what comes up to start with. So a lot of women have probably never been into this space. So it is kind of like a guided experience. You get like really comfy and just allow like the sensations to take over. Because what you'll find is when you get in there, you'll feel a certain way. There can be a lot of emotions that come up because maybe there is that trauma there to deal with. So for me, what I do is I can see, I can feel, and I can hear what's going on. So at the minute, my guides are really chatty when I go into sessions. So it's great. So because they're telling me all the stuff. So we go in, we see what needs to be cleared. Sometimes there's messages there. Sometimes I can feel physical things. Like I worked with a woman who had a cyst, and I could feel that in my left side, in my left ovary, because that's where hers was. So I can pick up on stuff like that. And I will just relay back to you what they are telling me. Either it's my higher self talking to your higher self, or your guides talking to me. It depends what kind of connection you have with your spirit team and your guides. And it's just literally you get exactly what you need out of it because it's completely intuitively led, and you'll never be shown anything or given anything that you can't deal with. So we're not going to go in there and like the whole world's going to like blow up or anything. Like it's only going to allow you to receive exactly what you need to receive. And then usually I'll give maybe a meditation that might be helpful, or some next steps, or just maybe you need to go in there in meditation and just connect with that space a little bit more, because not many women will just like put hands on their womb and like speak to their womb. To some people, that might be weird. So it's about bringing connection back to that part of your body, because a lot of the times we've been disconnected. And again, on purpose, most of the time.
Yeah, not even just from a medication standpoint. I think just in the way that we have been taught to experience the world, like we are so disconnected or shamed even for anything related to our womb. I think even the conversations in like the coming of age around what it means to cycle, there was so much shame and negative connotation to it. So I would love if you could speak to, even just as a step one, to start to reframe that relationship with our cycle and in our body, and how we can really use that to reconnect to ourselves, to our womb space, and to our power through this like beautiful thing that our body's going through all the time.
Yeah. So an amazing book, another one is Wild Power by the same women, Alexandra and Shani. And that is all about your menstrual cycle and working with the energies. So they dive into all the information around the seasons of your cycle. So in a spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So in a summer is like ovulation, in a winter is menstruation. Understanding how to work with the energies, and not like, oh, you must exercise like this on this day of your cycle. Nothing like that. It's to do with how we push ourselves, because when we're in ovulation in a summer, we have all this energy, we have all this external energy. And the next stage is your luteal, which is your inner autumn, so the week before you bleed. So if you are going into that phase of your cycle still with all this summer energy, you're going to burn out. And this is why so many women struggle when they get to this phase, so that you can get PMS symptoms, for example. And it's because you're trying to move through that phase of your cycle with the same energy as the summer. And actually what happens like physically with progesterone rising in the body, that's your hormone that wants you to slow down. But we don't. As women, we think we have to continue at the same pace, work in a men's 24-hour cycle, but we have a 28-ish day cycle. So we need to work with those energies. So we need to start to slow down, maybe schedule less things, maybe say no. If you're a really bad people pleaser, as a lot of women are, then saying no, using it, practicing it in this phase of your cycle is super, super easy, because your ability to give a shit disappears. So say no to things. Even if you feel like you have to go, if you don't want to, you can just say no, and that's okay, because your body wants you to slow down. And I find as well, usually a day or so before I'm going to bleed, I'll have like this little burst of energy. And this little burst of energy is to kind of get everything right, so that when you bleed, you can completely stop. Now, of course, we live in modern day society. We can't just all take day one of our bleed off and do sod all. That would be fantastic though. But if you can take an hour, a couple of hours just to slow down, because when we bleed, this is a time when we're most connected to source, to our higher selves. So our cervix is connected through the vagus nerve to our heart, to our throat, to our third eye. And it's also energetically connected. So when we bleed, everything is more open, you're more connected, you can receive downloads. So this time should be used to receive those downloads. And then when you are coming out of your bleed, when you're in your spring, then you start to implement the download you received. And this is the way you can use your cycle every single month to kind of plan what's happening in your life and use these downloads to your advantage to plan your month ahead. But if you're continuing at the same energy, you're not going to be able to implement that because you haven't slowed down enough to receive it. So it's just about working with the energies and understanding what your body needs at what time in your cycle.
I think for me, it was even as simple as like reframing the language I used around it. Like I feel like we were taught like, oh, I'm on my period and this sucks and it sucks being a woman and this is so hard and why must we do this? And it's like even just the reframe of being like, oh, this is the time that I'm like the most tapped in. Like I feel agitated because I'm supposed to be shedding what is not serving me. Like and just reframing that, like what a gift it is to get to experience this and being able to listen, when your body is presenting certain symptoms, what does that mean? Like, what do you need? How do you need to nurture it? How do you need to work with it? That alone, that reframe of stepping into power and purpose, as opposed to the like, victim complainy mentality, like that alone, I feel like can be so powerful. The second question that I had on the other side of this, I've been recently pregnant. I'm still postpartum. I'm not cycling. And I know that there's women listening who have stopped cycling for whatever reason, whether they're in a different season of life, like you said, have underwent surgeries, things like that. How do we tap in when we don't have that same physical cues because we're in a season where we're not cycling?
Yeah, of course. So you can use the moon. So the moon is one of the simplest tools that you can use to kind of get back into a rhythm. So the new moon would be your bleed time and the full moon would be ovulation. So you can start to use that as a guide. And what my client who had the partial hysterectomy and who's postmenopause, she started using the moon, but then she realized that she was actually opposite that. She got back into her natural rhythm because she'd started to follow some kind of rhythm. And she remembered that she used to be the opposite when she was cycling. So that's a really simple tool that you can use to follow the energy. So when it's the full moon, this is when you're going to be ovulating, for example. This is when you can schedule all like events and go on holiday and do all the things because it's really external energy. So then when you head towards the new moon, that's your bleed time. So as you come past the full moon and you start to slow down, you can just use that as a tool. And I find that's the easiest way to get back into a rhythm until you find your own. And you might be in the rhythm with the moon. Or again, you might be completely opposite. It's again tapping in enough to listen and feel how you're feeling each and every day, because cycle awareness, a really great tool is just to have like a cycle awareness journal. So you just put day one, for example, you put how you're feeling, energies, sexual energies, any downloads. And then what this is doing is you do this every single day to start to bring awareness back into the body. Because even with apps, it's an external. A journal is internal because you actually have to physically write that down. Whereas an app, you can just click, oh, I feel like this, I feel like this. And it's kind of giving your power away almost, because they're going to tell you how you could be or should be feeling. Whereas you're actually writing down how you actually feel. And when I first started, I was doing it religiously. Like now I don't, because I just every day I clock it in my head just because it's become second nature.
Yeah.
But when you're first starting out, a cycle awareness journal would be the number one thing that I would get into the habit of doing.
I love that. Okay. I feel like this is a great transition into if you are in the season of anticipating or desiring conception. I know you also were talking about like women later in life are having babies. We're kind of just like have this whole shift in paradigm in what motherhood could potentially look like. I'm just going to open up the floor for you to talk about what's on your mind right now, because I know this is really alive in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I shared on Threads the other day, I actually got this download. It was October last year. And sometimes I write this stuff down in my notes and I forget about them. And then I was on the train to London and it just popped into my head and I saw it and I was like, oh, I'm going to post this. It went off on Threads. So it was all about how women over 40 are starting to have more children. And the reason they're starting to have more children is because there's a lot of new souls ready to come into this earth because of everything that's happening, the shift that's happening, the shift in consciousness. And there's a lot of us are like recycled. We've been here quite a few times, whereas there's lots of these new souls wanting to come in. Now, these new souls need to be held by women that can hold their energy. And they're choosing to come to women who are, say, 40 plus, because these women have been through the shit. They've been through it. They know themselves better than they've ever known themselves before. And these souls are choosing them because they know that they're going to get the right mentorship and guidance from this woman, from the family unit. And personally, that's how I feel my journey is going, because I had a channeled message that I'm moving to Spain later in the year. And I know that when I land there, that's when our child is going to kind of come in. And I know why it didn't happen before, because I wouldn't have been able to hold that energy. And it's the same for women. And even today, I posted something about, in the UK, I assume it's the same in America, where they call women over 35 geriatric mothers. And I was just like, no, this is not geriatric. Like, these women are the women that can hold the energy. And I feel like there's a massive shift that's happening. And this is going to become the norm, because who decided at 40 that your body has just given up the ghost and you're not able to have a baby? Like, that's absolute bullshit, like absolute nonsense. So yeah, for me, and how my work's shifting is supporting these women in the conception process, or if they're pregnant, in the birth process, connecting with their child, speaking with their child in the womb. I've done that. That's really fun. Connecting with the souls and bringing them through. So yeah, that's kind of how my work is evolving at the moment, because I feel like that's my next kind of evolution personally. And that's how I'm going to best support women at this time.
It's so timely that you bring this up. And I was sharing a little bit before we hit record, but we just had our fourth baby, and she was such a spiritual expander for me, because I mean, I can't even count the number of people I got into relationship with online, through trainings, through masterminds, who were some sort of intuitive psychic, had some sort of other connection gifting, who were just sharing nearly identical messages about, how she was coming from like this totally different space, this very specific energy. She chose my husband and I for a very specific reason, because of the journeys that we've been on and the ability to like hold what she's bringing. And it gave me so much curiosity, and like, oh, I wonder if I had known, if I had been as tapped in, if I had been as open and receptive with my three other children, like what messages we would have received. But I do, the more I've dug into this, the more I see like the souls that are coming in right now are really intentional and really on purpose. And I do really believe that our generation of women is laying the foundation for them to come and like sprint into this like entirely new world that we can only begin to conceptualize.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I think for me personally, it's something that when I first started this work, I got told, and I was like, that's really big and I'm not ready for that at this moment in time. I was like, oh my God, it's so massive. But now we've been back and forth from Spain, and every time I'm there, I feel like I'm getting this, like these downloads. Like, it's almost like I'm picking up code ready for this kind of next chapter. And now it feels like the right time for me to support women with this, because it's a big task and it's a lot. But the sessions that I've had with women where we've brought in their child and prepared their womb, these are some of the most amazing sessions. And connecting with the child in spirit before they come in the body is wild. Like, some of them are so chatty. Like, I'm not surprised that yours was chatting away to everybody that she could, because they're just like do 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 do, like flitting around, just like so excited. And yeah, like you said, she chose you for a reason, 100%, because of the stuff that you've been through. And this is why women who are a little bit older, let's say, are going to have these like life-changing, earth-changing children.
Yeah. And having gone through so many of these journeys of unraveling and doing the deconditioning and like really coming into themselves and like being able to hold their power, I think is crucial for this. Okay. not super related to womb work, but related to just kind of this journey you've been through. Many women in this community, now that they have gone through these journeys or are actively going through these journeys, are starting to like get pings of, psychic abilities coming online and are just really trying to understand what this means. Like, this is all very new. Could you tell us more about your experience or what advice you would have for someone who is in this journey of like unpacking everything they've ever known and also kind of coming online into this whole new intuitive power, psychic abilities, like whatever this looks like for whoever's listening?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, I was like, this is wild, but in
Right.
the best possible way. So I've always been into like witchcraft and spirituality, like from a teenager. Like I have all my witchcraft books from all that time ago, and I've still kept them. Obviously, there was a reason. And every time I go for like a reading and stuff or Reiki, I'd be like, oh, I wish I was psychic. It'd be great if I was psychic. Obviously, it was always there. But for me personally, unlocking and peeling back the layers with the womb work has allowed my psychic gifts to like amplify, literally explode within like 18 months. Because, like I said before, our womb is connected to our heart, our throat, and our third eye. So if one's blocked, then so are other channels. And especially our third eye, like a lot of us are people pleasers. We struggle to say what we want in life, in the bedroom, wherever it is. Our heart is closed. Then that means our third eye is closed. So by unlocking these parts of myself, it unlocked my psychic abilities. And I had a mentor who obviously saw something in me before I did. She was like, come and join. And I was like, I'm not a psychic. She was like, come and join. So I would recommend, like, if you feel pulled to that, finding the right mentor, someone that's going to support you, someone who knows about psychic safety and you can be protected. And then if you want to help anybody else, you can protect them as well. But just really leaning into what your psychic abilities or intuitive abilities are, because not everybody sees, not everybody hears. You could
Mm-hmm.
be a feeler, or you could just know. Like a knowing is the most difficult because your logical brain will override that every single time. So the more you start to lean in and trust your intuition, the more they will turn on. And for me, I never used to see anything. It was always here. And for ages, I just thought it was the voice in my head, but it's not. Like, it's, by the way, it's not some big booming voice like God that's going to come out the sky. It's going to be your voice in your head that you're going to hear. And
Yeah.
that's your guides talking to you. But now for me, I see a lot of stuff, especially when I'm in sessions, not generally just like wandering about. It is in sessions. And I did have a session with a woman who was already tuned in, and doing the womb session unlocked her clairvoyant abilities. So it could just all open for you. And it's just about really understanding psychic safety and been staying grounded, because a lot of this work is up in the astral. And for women, we can become very ungrounded. So making sure you understand how to really ground yourself. And I actually do have a grounding meditation, so I can always share that. I can send that to
Oh, I
you,
love that.
and we can share it in the notes so that people can kind of understand how to really ground. And you can do it daily, so that the more grounded you are, the easier it is going to be to tap into your psychic abilities and just really lean into it and go with it.
Well, and something you said earlier is like, I think that the spirit world is very smart and tapped it. Like, you're not given more than you can handle. And so I think sometimes we hear stories of like, oh, when I was a kid, I had all these experiences, and women are like, oh, I don't identify with that. Like, that must not be for me. But so many women that I'm connecting with was like, oh, they went down their healing journey and started peeling back layers and being able to tune in and trust themselves and their intuition. And they were already positioned in a kind of work where they were using their abilities without even realizing they existed. And that's something I've come into awareness of, like, oh, I've been feeling and knowing for the entire time I've been coaching. I just thought I was like, could read people really well. And so it's likely you may already be experiencing it without having like the fully tapped in dial of like understanding what it is. But then I believe that we're brought down these paths. And if we opt in to follow the breadcrumbs, more of these things can start presenting as you understand, as you come online, as you understand the safety, as you have like the ability to hold it. But it's like a matter of like opting in to say yes and to be willing to explore what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you lean into it, the more stuff will start to open, the more you start to trust in your own abilities. Because when I first started, I would see and hear the randomest things, and I just had to learn to say it to the person because it always made sense. So even if because your logical brain's going to try and get in the way, and especially if you're a woman who spends a lot of time in her head, which I do. So getting out of your head and into your body in whatever capacity that looks like for you is going to allow you to be able to tap into those and trust those a lot easier.
Mm. Thank you so much for going down that little rabbit hole. Because I just know, like, specifically in one of the group programs I'm in, there's just like, oh, I heard this, or I feel this, or I have this ringing in my ears. Like, what does it mean? And it's very disorienting when you start opting in to say yes and you're kind of exploring, but don't really have your navigation set yet. So I think it's really interesting to hear from women, especially who have come into like their expansion and their awareness around the same time frame, to just explore what that looks like and provide some, assurance and guidance, as we all go down this path.
It's nice to have that reassurance.
Yeah. Well, and just to hear the diversity of like, what does that look like? And I really believe for so many women, we have always been going down the path that is guiding the work that we're meant to be doing. Like, I think that there's so much conversation around like finding your purpose. And to some extent, like, I think everything you've ever done has been part of building your purpose and to bring you along the journey to like give you the awareness for what you're meant to be doing in each season. And if you're living with any level of intentionality, you are always, to some extent, living your purpose or building towards the purpose that's meant for you. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more.
it reduces the pressure and expectation that there's like one magical thing to have to find. It's like when the more you rebuild that relationship with self and that trust and your intuition and like come back to your body and in your power, like everything else truly flows.
Mm. Yeah, how beautiful.
Okay, Holly. First of all, is there anything else that you feel really called to share that we have not touched on up until this point?
I think just getting more women back into their body and stopping them from outsourcing their power to others. And that's not to say you don't need help or guidance along the path, but having someone who is going to bring you back to yourself and not say, follow my 12-step program to heal. So, yeah, just using your intuition and your discernment and only working with those people who are going to bring you back to self. Because along my journey, and I think been like hyper independent woman, I was like, I can do it all myself. I can just, learn myself. And it's like, no, actually, I did need the help and the guidance. And if I hadn't had that, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. And I got here quicker. So yeah, just really bringing yourself back into your own body and not outsourcing your power to anybody.
Yeah. Okay. So for anyone listening who is super intrigued by what you do and thinks that you could be a resource to support them, what would be some of those first steps to get connected with your world?
Yeah, so you can find me on Threads most of the time now. Just live on Threads. Instagram, Womb Witch Holly. And if you've just got a question, you can just send me a DM. I'm happy to chat through what it is you're going through. If it's something I can help with, I offer one-off sessions. I offer long-term coaching. So it's always best to probably just come and have a chat to me and see what it is you need and see if I can actually help you with it. Because I'll only help you if I feel that I can. If not, then I do have other people that I could definitely recommend.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Holly, before we close out, last question I ask every guest is, what does growth look like for you in this season?
So growth for me, so my word of the year is intentional. That's the word I chose. And I feel for me, this season of growth with a lot of stuff that's happening, changing this year, is as long as I'm being really intentional with every single step, it's going to allow me to get to where I'm going quicker. Because like moving countries, possibly getting pregnant this year, maybe slightly changing the direction of who I'm serving is all these big things that are quite scary. But as long as I'm moving with intention and staying in integrity, then I'm going to be able to grow and grow and grow exactly how I want.
I know that so many women listening identify with the I know I'm being called forward to the next season. And it is both exciting and also a little bit terrifying because when you know you're being prepared to fully step in, there's all of these like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Am I equipped? Like, it's like the fear of your own purpose and power. Would you talk a little bit about what that looks like for you? And if there's anything that you are doing to really ground into that instead of like turning around and running away and hiding under the covers? Not that that's not fine some days, but
Some days we do that, yeah. Yeah, so for me, I always have a good support system. I have a couple of mentors, and whenever I feel that I'm deviating from my path, let's say, I will go and get guidance and support. But what I've also learned is to really trust in the messages that I receive, because it's really easy. And even for me, who's, quite tapped in and understand all this stuff, I still have those wobbles because I'm human. So having people you can go to kind of just sound it out, and especially in this work, like my husband doesn't fully get what I do, of course. So talking to him about this is not going to help. Having people that understand and get you and having that support system really, really helps. And then my day to day looks like daily grounding. Qigong has been a lifesaver for me this year, like slow, intentional movement. I love cooking as well. So really like nourishing food, looking after myself, because I'm really bad at sometimes going all in with everything and forgetting about myself. So I'm always really intentional with putting myself first before everything else. And on my whiteboard, I have in big capital letters, remember your capacity, so that I don't go over it and burn out. Because again, that's been a cycle that's happened before. So having the support, putting myself first, and just really trusting that I know I'm on the right path. And that's been like a lifesaver for me so far this year. So hopefully just continue doing that.
I can't wait to see what this year has in store. Oh, I hope that you're going to share everything about your move to Spain on Threads. I adore following you. There's so many things. You're like one of those people, you say something and I'm like, literally, like, why didn't I type that? Like, same. I totally agree. I'm just obsessed with you. So this is the blessing of the internet to find women who are just totally on the same wavelength and doing really beautiful work in the world. So thank you, Holly.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey friend, I hope this conversation sparked something real in you, something that feels like truth, curiosity, or the courage to keep becoming. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it. Take a screenshot, post it to your stories, or send it to one of your friends. You can always find me over on Instagram at Emily Rushel, where I love continuing these conversations and hearing your takeaways. Truly, your DMs are one of my favorite parts of podcasting, so don't be shy. I'd love to reflect and connect with you over there. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by a community of women who ask hard questions, sit in the discomfort of the unknown, blaze new paths forward, and ultimately come home to their wild and waking selves. See you next week.